how that plays into our losses, such as when there's an accident that takes out a stoplight and how that deductible hits the department budget?
Can you speak on that? If that happened? I apologize. Courtney has an urgent matter that she had to take care of for our staff.
Okay.
But I know AP has had to deal with stoplights with your budget, so maybe you can answer some of that.
So I can't tell what this package includes. Previously, historically, our challenge has been it's a low deductible, where if the traffic signal is damaged, we have expenses anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000, and we have to absorb that expense because it does not. We had to fund it from our own pocket at that damage. So I don't know what this package. What is the deductible on this one?
It's 30,000.
30,000. So maybe right now it used to be $5,000. So right now it's going to cover up to 30,000, and then it's. So we have to pocket up to 30,000, and anything above it you have to.
Right.
So it's a huge deductible. So I know at one time I've asked to maybe reduce it down to 5,000. I think we looked into that. It's an extreme added expense if you do that. If you reduce the deductible to 5,000, there will be additional expenses to the city. I can't speak for what the expenses would be. So,
Mayor, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe in the past, thank you, AP, that we have put in for restitution if there's a fault to the accident. However, that takes years. Full again. But I know every time we can, we do put in for restitution.
If they have insurance, does their insurance typically cover that?
I don't follow up once we make that request to the county attorney's office, and it's, I don't know how the payment goes. So I don't know, you're right, maybe it is that their insurance company pays the city, and then the person that caused it is paying them back. I don't know how that works.
if I may add,
If I were to hit the stoplight, my insurance is gonna pick that up because I'm at fault because I hopped the curb and hit the stoplight.
so there were three in the last 4 or 5 years I've been with the city. There has been three large damages to the city: 2 traffic signals and 1 streetlight pole. And only one instance there was insurance that got covered because the other 2 did not cover they did not have insurance. There was 2 fatalities, and we absorbed the cost of $35,000+ on each instance. So I'm sure we have, in the last 5 years, I must have paid at least $100,000 in the 3 instances that I saw in Indianola. So
that was, I guess, my question, like, have we priced different deductibles lately? And Courtney, I see your back. I asked a question about the liability coverage and the $30,000 deductible, how it affects the department budget when things like an accident that takes out a traffic light. And I'm just wondering if we've priced different deductibles lately.
On traffic signals specifically, yes, and we've actually reduced them down in my tenure here. I can get you exact details, but I don't recall the exact last update. I can get that for you.
So it has a different deductible than
Yes,
everything else?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, it can, yes, but I don't know right offhand if it does.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
What's in the renewal? It just said 30,000 for everything.
It would be 30,000.
That's consistent with what AP said
Yes.
for the last 2 or 3. Do we have to approve this tonight? Or can we look at other options before we approve it?
If you raise the deductible, then it's gonna cost you more money. Your insurance generally, rephrase that. When you raise the deductible and you're paid more for those kinds of things, it does cost you a little bit more sometimes it doesn't, depending on the situation.
Right.
So,
There's a balance.
there is.
So I guess my question is, can we look into that and see if it's justifiable.
Well, I guess I don't have a vote here, so I guess maybe my opinion really doesn't matter here. But I guess my thinking is that we, Courtney, we need to do this before the beginning of the year, is that correct?
Yes.
Fiscal year?
7/1.
Yeah.
We still have time.
We do.
We can bring it back to
We can
next.
bring it back on the second one. I mean, I think it's a valid question if it raises the premium $10,000. I mean, it's worth it because we've spent $100,000 out of pocket. So I think it's a valid question.
AP, how many have we had in the last 5 years?
Three.
So there were at least 2 traffic signals.
Okay.
One of them was 35, the other one was about the same price.
So were those uninsured motorists, and is that what situation was?
Yeah, both, even the recent one within the last 6 months, if I remember, at Euclid and, I think it's Euclid and Highway 65, that is still estimated at $35,000 when the traffic signal completely
And that
got
was-
wiped off.
Uninsured motorists as well?
Yes. I think we are trying to get I think you said you got trying to get the restitution on that one, so.
Now we're raising it to 30,000, you said, if that's what I'm hearing?
Deductibles stay the same for a month.
Yeah.
Stay the same, okay.
We have 3 instances for
There was
uninsured
two
motorists.
with traffic signals. I remember one more with the streetlight pole. Streetlight poles are a lot cheaper compared from $3,000 to $5,000. And some of them, if depending on the foundation type, that may get more expensive.
Right.
So you're essentially wanting to go back, see if doing a lower deductible
Right.
could
Look
be
at
beneficial.
Lower deductible options to see if it is justifiable.
I'd be in favor of that.
I
We
mean,
still have another
We
meeting.
still have time.
if we've paid out $100,000 out of one department's budget due to uninsured motorists,
Yeah.
I think we need to
Yeah,
at least weigh our options.
I think we also need to make sure we understand what our options are to collect from those folks that are uninsured as well. And I think, Chief, you've made some moves in that area. Maybe you can add a little bit information to that situation as well for the next meeting. I'll need a motion I'll need you to withdraw your second and your motion, and we'll need a motion to table until the next meeting.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to make sure that I understand what council's looking for. Are you looking for lower deductible options on everything or specific to traffic signals?
It'd be everything.
Everything?
With how the insurance, the packet reads that we got, it would, sorry, I'm pulling it back up. Because like the deductible, 30,000 deductibles, like building, personal property, the miscellaneous for property scheduled, unscheduled, with the 2% wind hail. And then with the normal 30,000 is where that would be. So that section, I think, is what Councilmember Stones is looking at.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we weren't talking specifically
Yeah.
traffic signals.
I think you have to do it by packages, is that correct?
Well, I guess unless there's an addendum to your policy.
Right.
Right, unless we can break it out.
I mean, unlikely. It's probably going to,
It would-
specific to all of those things listed under there, that you would get that lower option for based off of what I work with, which is typically going to be a lot of that section as opposed to general liability and professional liability. So it's going to apply to all of that with whatever you do. So, I mean, and honestly, we don't know either. 30,000 might be the lowest deductible option that's offered to.
So I need to withdraw the second, withdraw the motion, and then make
Mayor?
a motion to table?
Mayor,
Yes?
Is the council able to approve the rest of the renewals minus the ICAP portion,
Are the rest of you okay with that?
specifically on deductibles? I can go to the hall and see if I can get Brad Bankston on the phone and or Scott. They said that they would come this evening, where I wasn't receiving any questions. I didn't want to.
Right, well, Courtney asked me today if she should have Brad on the phone to answer these questions, and nobody had any questions ahead of time. And so I told her it wasn't gonna be necessary, but,
I'm happy to reach out to him right now if that would be helpful.
Why don't we just hold on to this then, and we can move forward with the rest of the meeting, and then if you get him on the phone, we can
Yep.
come back to this. Is that okay, Doug?
That's
We're good
fine.
with
Yep, it is.
that? Okay, we'll hold off, we'll just hold off on this section. Although we do have a motion on the floor, I believe I still have to have the motion withdrawn and the second withdrawn first and the motion withdrawn, and then we'll come back to this item.
I don't know who made the motion in the second.
Who made the motion in the second?
Lane and Dalby.
Okay,
Drawn.
I made the motion?
No, you seconded
Yeah, I
it.
seconded, yeah.
you got to withdraw your second.
Okay, yeah, so I'll withdraw my second.
Withdraw your motion? Okay, we'll come back to item O then, later in the agenda then. Okay, not item O, item L, item L. We're still on item O then, is the one for the Central Iowa Regional Transportation Planning Alliance. I need a motion and a second on item O.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, discussion. I think AP, there were some questions regarding the funding for this Highway 65, 69 turning lane project. So if you want to explain what the situation is there.
Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity. Akhilesh Paul, Public Works Director. If you recall previously on one of the May Council meetings, the City Council reviewed multiple different options that was recognized in the traffic study that was performed, and the council selected the option for adding a lane on Highway 65 between Girard Avenue and Highway 92. And that was, at that time, the estimate was $3.3 million. But that estimate has been increased to $4 million since of impact to traffic signals on there. So currently, as it sits, it is estimated at $4 million construction cost only. Of this, we are on the hook for 20% local match for construction cost, which is roughly at around $800,000. In addition to that, we are also on the hook for engineering expenses and for easement acquisitions, which is roughly at around $800 to $1.2 million. So overall, we will be on the hook for roughly $2 million or so, 1.6 to $2 million. And at the last meeting, I told you that 20% local match for construction. We will try to secure STBG funds that's available through Iowa DOT. We'll try to secure that. My conversation with CERTPA has been inclined that we may be eligible for that. But even if you are eligible for the construction costs, we are still on the hook for engineering expenses, which can range from $800 to $1.2 million, roughly, is what we are thinking. So based on these, it will have an impact on the road use funds and our capital plan for road use projects, what we are already in the hook for. So I just wanted the council to recognize the fact that if we apply for this grant, we are committed to this project. So there will be a memorandum of understanding, the council resolution that we will provide to CERTPA. We will be committed to this project. So I just wanted you to be aware of that fact. And if you want to discuss on that, I'm here to answer questions on that.
AP, can you repeat the estimate for engineering?
So engineering is roughly around, if I have to guess, 20% of the project cost. So that comes at around $800,000, which engineering includes construction, inspection, and engineering design. It could vary sometimes at 19 to 25% range is what I see for engineering expense. And in addition to that, there's easement acquisition that will be required. If we add a lane, we will be impacting on private properties.
And is that included in that 800?
No, that's why I said $1.2 million with engineering and $400,000 for easement.
So AP, I was writing some things here, but, so you're saying that we're gonna be on the hook for the 800,000 anyway, that's our 20% match. And you're saying that there's gonna be another 800 to 1.2 million on easement acquisition and, engineering, is that what you're saying?
Yes. So up to $2 million will be on the hook for. Of this $2 million, $800,000 for construction cost, we may get STVG funds from the Iowa DOT. So we may get that covered, no, but we'll try for that, so.
So, I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part? We could qualify for the 800,000 or for the 2 million?
$800,000.
We'd still be on the hook for 1 to 1.2.
What happens if we don't get that? Do we get to pull out or are we still on the hook?
So if we have to pull out, now is the time to pull out. We can't, once it's applied, the deadline is June 6th. Once we apply for it, we are on the hook for it.
Because I'm concerned with the rising cost that's happened and our ability to do that, knowing that we have other road needs as well. As much as I would love for this project to happen, because I think it would be great and I think it's something that would be needed, I would struggle to support the potential to spend $2 million now that it's $2 million as opposed to maybe what we were thinking earlier. I have concerns with that. As opposed to, $750 when we were talking about it a couple weeks ago. That does concern me. I don't know. I know we have other road needs too, so I'm just throwing it out there for all of you guys too. I don't know what you guys think now that we're hearing those numbers and knowing we can't pull out if we don't get those funds, as opposed to, boy, it'd be nice if we could pull out if we didn't get it, right?
Jackie, could you pull up on a map exactly where that's located by chance?
Can you do it
Or
better
Jason.
than I can to cast up
From
there?
Burger
No, it's
King
okay.
to Highway 92.
Okay, I was trying to picture where
Yeah.
Gerard was.
Yeah, Burger King to Highway 92, Gerard to Highway 92. But we chose this option and I guess, I maybe wasn't clear on the STVG grants. I guess we thought we have a pretty good shot at that. And then you're down to 800,000. And I'm not arguing anyway, I'm just trying to remember things here.
Yeah, and I don't think we quite knew engineering and easement costs then either.
Well,
I mean,
I think, well, the 800,000 would be the construction side. Yeah, you're right, the easement costs and everything else that would be involved there, but I think we're probably too late to apply for one of those other opportunities that you mentioned. We had like 3 choices, is that correct?
4 choices was given, 4 different options. We can certainly try 4 options where some of them were, the first option was signal improvements, and that also was roughly around $1.4 million, $1.1 million, sorry, $1 million that included signal improvements. And one of them was, of that $1 million, roughly around $325,000 was for 3-lane conversion on Highway 92, if you recall. That was included. I can cast that once Jason is done. I can show you the options again to the council again. So if
Just looking at the map, I mean, that's a lot of businesses that would be impacted too along that area. Some of them don't have very big lots.
No. But it's also hitting the 4 intersections that we've had the most traffic safety issues with too.
Is that because there's no turn lane, or is that because we have
yes.
horrible traffic?
Well, traffic gets so backed up when someone wants to turn. And we know that our traffic is not going to decrease in this corridor. Especially with,
Every day, and I don't have that issue. Maybe I just travel at odd times, but, I mean, I get stuck at a light maybe like once a week, but that's just a lot of money right now when our budget's so tight and.
why the screen up, yeah, there you go. So these were the 4 options. The first option was roughly at $1.4 million, which included the 3-lane. The first option is the 3-lane. We can remove that. So you'll be at roughly around $800,000 for first option. The second option is gateway treatment and transition zones for $650,000. And then access management, which we are currently we are doing access management study with Snyder and Associates. This option 3 was for implementing some of the ideas that we will come through that access management study for roughly around $1.65 million. And the last option, which the council selected, was previously shown at 3.3, which is currently standing at $4 million.
Which one was with the roundabouts?
Um,
Was that
None of
access
these are roundabouts, so
Which one?
none of these options
Okay.
show that. There was like 36 different options,
Yeah.
and none of these options that was presented to council had roundabouts. So.
So on option one there, could you explain what gateway treatment and transition zones are?
So option number 2 is
I'm sorry.
gateway transition is sometimes when you're entering from county areas into the city, you have these beautification signs, you change to curb and gutter, you have these signage, so you know that you're entering the city and you slow down is what they do. You know, right now we have Indianola, welcome to Indianola signs. You may see to other cities, metro areas, when you go, you see those signs.
But you're talking about curb and gutter, then putting curb and gutter in those.
Some cities do it curb and gutter, but whether that'll be on Highway 65, whether the Iowa DOT has to also agree for that. But currently, Highway 65 entering into town doesn't have curb and gutter. But if you recall, Highway 92 may have curb and gutter on the 3-lane on the west side of town. You know, so. So there was previously, they gave us another deadline previously, which is when we selected this option. Now, I don't know whether they will take this. If we change our option, whether they will take, we can certainly try if council wants to change it.
Well, one of the reasons that I think in the discussion, if I remember correctly, and you folks can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we realized based on the traffic studies and the accidents and things that that was probably the highest priority as far as enhancing those so that preserve life safety in those particular intersections that we've had a lot of issues with. And I don't know if any of you have received calls. I had, after our discussion on Hillcrest, I had another farmer that does a lot of trucking through the community ask me about the turning lanes and the issues that they have going through the town on Highway 65, 69. So I was just, those are things that we do have to consider too, and I understand all of the financial things, so believe me, whatever way we go is okay with me, but I just think we have to keep this on the front lot burner as well as we move forward down the road, whether it's a 5, 7, or 10-year plan, so. And what you're talking about here, if that would go through, we're probably not talking about doing anything with an actual lane change for 3 or 4 years, if more, not more, is that correct?
Yeah, I would say 3-4 years is a good guess, but
Yeah.
you have to finish the engineering design, easement acquisitions.
Right.
Mayor, if I may, AP, if we were awarded the grant, I believe you said it would be, we would have 5 years to complete the project?
I'll have to see that notice of, roughly that's what they give, 3 to 4 years, maybe 5. You have to complete the project within that certain period of time.
So you're thinking about how we're funding it, our piece of it?
Right.
Right.
I guess 2 points. One, I also received calls regarding this being a truck route and the amount of traffic that's on it and the slowdown as a result of not having a turn lane through this particular section. Truckers get slowed down quite a bit. And also the increase in traffic that's going to be added to this as a result of just the developments that are going in north of this section. Not a guarantee that they're always going to be going south, but with any development, we're going to have increased traffic flow through the city. And we have to keep that in mind and prepare for it.
So the $2 million question is,
Literally.
can we look at this and will this be an opportunity next year?
They always release this, the Safe Streets for All. So far, they have released it in the past. So there's a high chance that the US DOT would release this grant application next year too. Now, this year, we are getting free of no cost for us for SERPA to apply for it because that's part of the study. Next year, we may have to apply it separately, pay for grant application for that
Right.
package. So.
Do you know what our chances are of getting the STBG?
No, I can't. It's a highly competitive grant, and I know Jake, you told me that in your previous experience you had experience where there was a slim chance, 0.3%, but then you still ended up getting it. So in my experience too, I've applied for multiple of these. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't.
Well, the other thing we talked about too is using the funding that we get annually from SERPA to backfill some of that money. Is that correct as well, other than the STBG stuff?
So yeah, STBG is what we get from the SERPA.
Okay.
So worst case scenario, we don't get it, so we're on the hook for 2 mil. What's your funding package?
So
We've gone for it.
yeah. So we get roughly, on an annual basis, we get roughly around $500,000 of road use allocated. So anything beyond that, so if you get $2 million, and let's say we get $800,000 of that $2 million from the STBG fund, so we're on the hook for $1.2 million. Of that $1.2 million, we may be able to allocate that $500,000 that we allocate every year for capital projects. So maybe we can absorb it, but all your projects, if you recognize, all our projects will be pushed back
Yeah,
down the line.
that was kind of my concern with knowing we've got other road projects that we need to do, and what does that mean if we don't get the 800 grant? And I mean, I guess in theory, could we bond for the 2 to then keep the road use tax fund available for other road projects? If
can, but that-
council decided to do that.
Yeah, but that could affect what other projects you are able to bond for as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got a lot of things going on in the head right now.
If I may, this is the discussion of why staff pulled this item, is just realizing that this is a project that certainly could be completed, but ultimately if we end up on the hook for the full $2 million, it is something that we would likely have to bond for, and then that just competes with other projects and priorities. So it's really just a matter of realizing that it could certainly be made to happen, but it would just compete with other projects or other priorities that the city also has.
I think when you look at all the other projects we have on the docket, and some we're already committed to, when I think of capital projects, we've got what, 2.5, 3 years before we have to have a library taken care of and some other things we'll need to fund, that I'd hate to consume, as much as I think this is a very valuable thing and would be very progressive for the city. I think rolling the dice right now, I don't know if we're in a situation or a position to really do that. That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great project, but the timing's not right.
Yeah.
We should know more in a year if we have to go back to a year and if we have to pay for some additional funds. Do you have any idea what those costs are if SERPA doesn't provide some of the information?
Yeah, so the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan is what was prepared by SERPA, FHU. The company created this. That was for the entire region. So if I have to guess, maybe less than $10,000 to update that Comprehensive Safety Action Plan is what I would think.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing correct from council, that we don't apply this year and give it a shot next year, maybe if we,
Yeah, we'll see where we're at next year for budget wise.
that's kind of the consensus?
Yeah, we got to vote though.
So I Did we have a motion on the table here?
We do. Mhm.
I'm going to suggest to you that, again, we withdraw the second and the motion and then make a motion to not approve or to delay until next year. Bring it
Just
back.
vote no.
You could actually just vote no, you'll do the
Yeah, we
same
can do that
thing.
too. Okay. All right. We got a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote then on this.
Councilmember Stones?
No?
Lane?
No.
Dalby?
No.
Armstrong?
No.
Beach?
No.
Motion fails. Did we get Courtney back for item?
No, not yet. We can
Okay,
keep
let's
going.
move on then. Okay. Let's go to council reports. Receive and file the 2025 EMS billing activity report. Are there any questions for Chief Hurt? Good?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Need a motion.
So moved.
Motion second. Got a motion?
So moved?
No,
He's
I already
already
made
moved.
You
motion.
want a second?
I didn't even hear you. Second.
I didn't either.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Courtney, do you have anybody on the line we can talk on this other issue?
I have an answer.
Okay. Back to item L.
Thank you. There's a lot going on. 9 years ago is when it was changed. And we can lower the deductible. That's no problem at all. What we're asking council and board of trustees to do is approve the commitment to continue with ICAP as our carrier. We can get a really quick turnaround from ICAP. Brad thought in less than 24 hours, we'd be able to get you a firm cost for reducing that down. He doesn't recommend that we go below 5,000, but he did say that anywhere between 5 and 10 is a feasible deductible. That you are all approving the commitment to be a part of the member pool. We can adjust, and then before the final invoice is submitted, we would have the council and the board review and approve that information. So the commitment is what you're approving. Yes, the resolution does have an amount, but that can be adjusted if that's what council desires. It's a very easy process. Right now, it's just the commitment to continue with ICAP. It is not the council approving an invoice. That has not been done yet. And that's not what we're asking you to do this evening.
Do we have a motion on the table on this one?
We do.
Okay.
No,
No,
withdrew.
no, I'm sorry, it was withdrawn.
Withdrew.
No, we do not.
All right, so what we would do here is, if you're okay with that, is make a motion for the commitment to ICAP with the amount to be determined by the next council meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, that won't be a problem at all. We'll have it for the board of trustees as well.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is there any reason that anybody can think of we wouldn't want to go with them? I mean, I'm coming in this little blind, but why would we not stay with ICAP? Is the
No,
question.
I have
Okay.
had no complaints,
Okay.
at least to me.
Okay. Thank
He's
you.
an excellent carrier, and the options are limited.
Okay.
Great question.
Any
We'll
other
get all that
questions?
information back to you soon.
Call the roll then.
Councilmember Beach?
Aye.
Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Motion carries 5-0. We're on item B under number 7, consideration of reappointment of Rich Piper to the Planning and Zoning Commission, term beginning July 1 and ending July 3rd, 2030. I need a motion and a second.
So moved?
Second?
Any discussion? I think we had a couple folks look at that. I don't think there's anything, anybody had any questions on it, if I'm not mistaken.
No, didn't hear from anyone.
Okay. Any other questions? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Consideration of the appointment of Kelly Revere Myers to the Indianola Public Arts Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1, 2027.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Any discussion from any of the folks that reviewed some of these?
Both look like good candidates.
Okay. No other discussion? Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Stones?
Aye.
Item D, consideration of the appointment of Josiah McInnes to the Indianola Public Arts Commission for term beginning July 2025 and ending July 1, 2028. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Beach?
Aye.
Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, update from the Indianola Public Arts Commission on the Illuminate Indianola mural project. Looks like you're gonna have about a full committee here pretty soon. Bob.
Yes, finally. I apologize for coming in late. I was doing what most people, most old men do at my age. I was icing my knee and taking a chair nap. So, and put the wrong time on my alarm, so. So, do you want just an update or you have questions or what would you prefer?
Lori Hebner submitted a proposal to IPAC and you guys reviewed it and you asked her for a few changes, so it has changed a little bit since it was in your packet. Jason, are you able to pop that up on the screen?
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Here, just showing.
That's okay, I can say how good it is.
There you go. It looks really nice.
Yeah, and there's a few things where we'd like to, add or talk to her about yet, and she's been very flexible. She came, I can't remember, it was February or was it
March, I
January,
think.
March? And did a thing with the public with their light wands, to try and get ideas for the whole mural. So we've been working towards this for quite a while. Last year, we had planned, and we had figured if we received a $25,000 grant from Bravo, Greater Des Moines. It's a $50,000 project, and we had planned and budgeted out and figured by the time we got our annual budget from the city of $8,000, we'd have it paid for and enough for the art fair. But then when we found out that $8,000 was taken away, it became a little bit of a problem. So we are right now trying to finish up. We're still doing fundraising to pay for the rest of this and to pay for the art fair, the rest of the art fair. We're short about $2,900 at this point, but we think by the time, this rolls around in August, we should be in pretty good shape. Like I said, we're still working, still fundraising, and we'll know, but I think we should be in pretty good shape. We were kind of blindsided a little bit. We didn't anticipate that money going away. And when we budget that far in advance and plan it out, which is what we've done, in fact, we raised so much money because the first year we actually had the art fair, we had no money. And so we worked to budget it, and it kind of blindsided us a little bit, but we think we're going to be in pretty good shape, so. And she'll be here in August. The first 2 weeks in August, she's going to come a little earlier because she wants to see the balloons, and we're going to try and arrange a ride for her, for the balloons, since this is kind of a balloon theme, which is what Indianola is known for. So one of the major parts of this was the fact that she's a lighting artist, and this alley, as you know, really needs lights. I mean, it is really dark. Well, along with the murals, the lighting is going to become part of the art, but the lighting will also become a safety feature. And we cannot get a grant from Bravo for safety lighting, but we can if it's an artistic lighting, which is part of the whole project. And the lighting can be controlled. It can be set where it's on from this time to that time. Some of the lights will be on, some won't. And we've talked to her to make sure that at some point, whatever the city or, we decide, when it doesn't need to be lit for, the artistic part, and at evening, it will be lighted so people can still get back and forth across the alley, and it won't be so dangerous or scary, to walk down that alley, because it is dark and it's narrow. We think we have everything pretty much figured out, so Any questions
Or feedback on the art.
or feedback on the artwork? She worked with the public. A lot of different people that are in there are from the people that showed up at the workshops and worked with her, so.
It looks nice, Bob.
Does.
I have a question. If there are members of the public who want to contribute, how do they do that?
We've talked to her because she knows that she will bring an assistant, but she will also need some help from the public to help painting. Now, she will use a lift, and anybody who helps painting won't be able to be on that lift, but any painting that's down below, she will coordinate with the people, so they will be able to, come and contribute and actually work on painting the mural, so.
What about financial contributions?
Oh, we are always, we're always looking for financial contributions. We have different levels that we've tried to for both projects, talk to people to donate, but we're not finished. We're always fundraising. So people will be able to contribute.
They can reach out to the clerk's
Yeah.
office and ask.
Yeah.
The clerk's office, perfect. Thank you.
On that topic, Bob, I know that in the Regions Building, you've got some art there. You and I talked about if we need to set up a booth at the art fair to sell the rest of that. Have you found out anything?
I apologize, my alarm for this meeting keeps going off because I set it at the wrong time. That was my warning and that was my.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I got some calls into those, the Safe Company and the
Fire King, the
file
File
cabinet company, yeah.
Okay, so what we were trying to do, Ron went online and found that the company that makes the safe deposit boxes and the doors are made in Cedar Rapids, I
Rapids.
believe, and the file cabinets, the fireproof file cabinets are made
Sigourney.
Sigourney. We are gonna try to see if we can maybe get them to come in and do that. I'm guessing that we can probably work some funds. We've already made some opportunities that we're gonna take those monies that we get. So I'm thinking if we can have a tent or something at your art fair there that we'll sell or whatever.
Well, and it's a good idea, but we also want to make sure, our big concern is that we don't want to compete with the artists that are there trying to sell their work.
Good point.
So I think we will still coordinate and have a sale.
Okay.
Try and get some information out, because there's some really nice works, and I told Jackie, when she said, what are we gonna do with these? And I said, well, first of all, you need a guy.
Yeah.
And I said, I have a guy.
Yeah.
Because it's the owner of AOK Antiques, when we had our big sale.
Sure.
And he came down. So he came down and he actually bought about 3 works. But a lot of the other works, he said, if I get those, they're gonna be here for a long time, and whether I sell them. He suggested that we have our arts council go through and look and price them between 50 to 150, around that range. There is a larger one there that I think could go for quite a bit more. We looked at some of the works, and some of the works were originally sold years ago, for $600 or more. So
Okay.
whoever, wants to buy these, they are nice works. They're the people who owned these works had a collection, according to Halderman, had a collection of between $1 and $1.5 million.
Okay.
Their entire collection. So it's there's some nice works there. They were selected.
So when is the Buxton Art Fair? When is that? You have the date on that?
It's the first weekend of balloons.
August
July
20
26th.
26th, yeah.
So we probably want to have that before that time?
We were thinking originally it was, when we were talking about this, it was in the last part of June, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay.
So,
All right, so let me coordinate, folks, so this is gonna have to be probably just something in the Regions Building in the hallway there. We'll do it. We'll have a tag sale.
I think so.
Let me get with Jake and Jackie and anybody else that wants to maybe help out. But I get some things put together and we'll talk with Aaron about getting some pictures and flyers put together. And I can take those up to a couple antique malls in Des Moines as well and see what we can do, so.
And owner of AOK Antiques, he'll put the word out to his group of people you know, that know when there's things like this available.
So,
And we'll tell people if they want, they can get their picture taken being locked up in the safe.
I think Jake was wondering if he could get out of there if he was doing the tour with. So to give us enough time, my thought is maybe that last weekend in June then, would that?
Yeah, that's what we're thinking.
Okay,
anyway,
so we'll take a look and I'll talk with some folks here and see if we can maybe make that 27, 28 thing work out. Okay.
Okay.
Is there any feedback on the artwork at all that you guys?
Talking about this or the artwork?
Yep, that stuff, just in case there's any feedback that you want to give to the artists.
Let's see, Ron, if you've got a contact that you got information sent to the Cedar Rapids and Sigourney Company, let's get that over to staff too and see if they can kind of beat the bush a little bit and follow up on that, see what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay. Money's going to the Art Council, so maybe that'll close your $2,000 gap. We can
that's
make it
what we're
happen.
hoping.
And
So get your wallets out, guys.
yeah, there you go.
That
I'll
last
do have my
weekend
name
in
on it.
June. Bob,
Yes.
that last weekend in June is the Des Moines Art Fest. I don't know if that matters.
Oh,
but-
yeah, we'll
Good
have
time.
to schedule around, yeah, that's.
We can talk offline.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk offline, we'll get a date.
I do have one thing about this. Can we add a skateboarder in there since we have a skate park?
Oh, well, that's a good idea. I'm gonna have to practice, but I think that's a good idea.
Looks like you
Well,
did.
we'll mark that, that's a good idea, I hadn't thought about that, so.
Okay.
Just a thought.
We need a lawyer in there or anything, you know?
Disc golf, disc golf,
On a
whatever. right?
skateboard.
Disc golf, yeah.
Disc golf, yeah. Okay, anything else, folks, on this one? Bob, thanks a lot, appreciate the information. We need to get together on some times and let's see if we can get that wrapped up here in the next week or so.
Well, thank you.
I can't wait to see it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, SERPA report. Melissa, you got anything on that yet?
Yes. We met in May and as you remember, the safety action plan was one of the items that we had to get approval for here so that as the SERPA committee, we could vote on it there. And so the projects were put through at the SERPA committee. We approved those, and then we also approved invoices. And I'm mentioning this just because as a larger initiative, let me get the wording right here. I'm still learning, so be patient with me here for a minute. Safety action plan invoices that we approved for that month were $26,000. So this stuff comes at a cost, but we don't see those costs. We just benefit from the effort collectively. When they went out and did all of the analysis that looked at our community and the roads and streets and intersections and all of our crash data, we got that analysis back to us, and all of our intersections and how it mapped out. That was all part of that, and we continue to pay. We approved the 26 planning work program and the budget, and then our comprehensive, the safety action plan for next year. That's about it for SERPTA.
South Central?
The landfill is a different story. So we had Adair County come to us and ask to join the landfill, and they came in with, they meaning the landfill staff and some of the other board members were very adamant that we not let Adair County in. And when one of the other board members and I started asking questions as to why, because they presented their tonnage and how much they would be bringing in. To us, it didn't seem like a lot, but overall, they were really trying to protect our assets and not wanting to fill up the cells too quickly. So we will be drafting a policy by whereas we are no longer accepting any new members, to make sure that we just close that door going forward. Adair County has come to us 3 times and wanted in, and we just want to make sure that we make it clear that we're not accepting them and we're not accepting anyone else either. The fiscal 23-24 audit report was back, and once again, I raised some concerns, the same concerns that I had on the audit report last year were on this audit report again. So I did make a motion that either I was going to vote not in favor of the audit report, or we table it until we can talk in more detail about some of the items, specifically segregation of duties and some cash handling items. We just have such a slim staff that we don't have separation of duties, and it is an all-cash facility. So we're going to work on getting some procedures in place and possibly even look into hiring another person so that we get these items handled so that they don't show up again. On another topic, they asked to purchase a side-by-side and wanted us to approve it. I requested that they come with 2 proposals before we approve any expenditure. So that was tabled as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other council committee reports?
I have a question, actually.
Okay, go right ahead.
So on the dump situation, when I was on the board, there was close to, I think it was like $1 million in tornado debris dump fees that Madison County basically dumped. And we had to, I think there was like a loan or something from the government that was taken out on that. Has Madison County paid any of that back yet?
I'll have to look into that.
Good question.
Melissa, I think that was the just kidding thing where maybe a board member said that they could, but couldn't, if I recall. We talked about that in March a little bit too.
That's interesting.
It was I believe that was we couldn't really actually get any of that money, if I recall.
That was the basis for why a vote was cast, was on the repayment of that.
I'm sure Melissa will get on that and figure it out, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, there are some issues there, and Melissa, I know you've met with Jake already, but maybe talk with staff about some of the issues there as well.
Yeah, I told him it was a conversation for another day. I had already loaded him pretty well.
All right, community update, great events Friday night here. We had Suds on Salem, we had bike night. Things went very well from my understanding, and there was great participation from a lot of people outside of the community, and glad that things went well, and I hope the businesses did well as in that situation too. Congratulations to the boys and girls soccer teams for the first time in history. Both Indianola boys and girls soccer teams qualified for state. In fact, I think the boys kick off here in about 4 minutes, so good good luck to them and hope things go well. I had a conversation Saturday night with interim Simpson President Terry Handley on some individual things regarding orientation of new freshman students, and they're going to work on some things to work continually with Chamber and also with Main Street to try to find some things that will promote the kids and get them to be more involved in the community very often, very quickly into Simpson and Indianola communities, and so hopefully they can keep those kids coming back and get a higher retainage rate as well. So, excuse me. With that, I'll. I have to say much for a few moments here anyway. So, but that's my community update for right now. Let's move to item B, which is the approval and appointment of Randy Bickham to the Park and Recs Commission, term beginning July 1, 25 and ending July 1, 28.
Second.
Motion and second, clerk call the roll. There's no discussion. Discussion? No discussion, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Beach,
Aye.
Stones,
Aye.
Lane,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Public consideration, we're into new business now. We have a resolution accepting a quote from Vice Construction for the apparatus bay drain reconstruction project. Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Discussion. Chief, you up on this one?
Aaron Hurd, Fire Chief, Mayor and Council. The current infrastructure that we have in the drains of the bays upstairs has been deteriorating for some time. I think the discussion was with the consideration of possible relocation of a new station in the near future. That had been just kicked down the road repeatedly to the point to where some ad hoc repairs were made using closet drains to the backside of the North Bay. The way that the fall is in the bays currently right now is the concrete's built up in the center of the bays, falls to the front of the bay, half of it falls to the front of the bay, half of it falls to the back of the bay. We frequently use water in the bays to fill the apparatus, to wash the apparatus, and one of the situations that we kept running into was that because the bays were not properly designed for the use that they have, is that a lot of the mud and stuff that falls into the drain, does not get caught in a separator pit, which would be a debris or grease separator pit. Essentially, it finds its way into the sewers, causes frequent clogs to the sewer. We did have JT here, who is our maintenance personnel, or head maintenance person for the city. On multiple occasions, he's had to try to flush a drain to get it to, so we could be able to continue to drain. He did put a debris catcher on there to try to prevent that from causing issue. We have dealt with some flooding, the flooding of the captain's office, which is space back there, the technician's area, the maintenance area, and some of the equipment that we've stored, again, because we're limited on space, frequently gets wet that shouldn't get wet when there's standing water. So I did get with Jackie, I did get with Tim, who is a certified master plumber, and with JT, and we did follow the council's procedure for putting it out for bid to see what we could get back. The only bid that we did get back then was, I guess we had left it posted for 2 weeks. The only bid we did get back was from Vice Construction for the amount of $118,667.50. This is not just a cheap repair. This is a complete overhaul of the problem area. The only existing drain that will remain is the drain that's in the South Bay, and that's because it does have the separator pit. It does catch it, and we do have wastewater come and pump out the debris and the oil and the product in there frequently. With this one, what it'll do is put one on the outside, then line the whole north and northeast bay with the proper drains and the proper separator pit to achieve proper drainage. I did send you some pictures of the deterioration. It's extreme tripping hazard here, which is a safety issue and a liability issue for the city. And just as we start to consider maybe that we might be here in the station for a longer duration, I wanted to start addressing some of these safety issues. One of the other issues that I think I'll bring in the near future has to do with the garage doors seem to be deteriorating. We've had incidences where they've collapsed on apparatus and near misses with some personnel here. So I feel like this is a project that shouldn't be delayed. I did talk to Jackie about potential funding, and based on your resolution in 2015 that basically allocates how the lost funding can be spent, this does fall within it. In talking with Jackie, the revenues did exceed the expenditures this year in the amount of $254,300. There is a current cash balance of $496,848.22 as the last report. Again, some monies that would be well spent in making the repairs that are needed.
Any questions for the chief?
I remember walking through there,
Oh.
well, when we,
Yeah.
3.5 years ago, and boy, it's got considerably
lot
worse since then.
Chief, what are you gonna do with the apparatus while you do that?
So this bid, and that's probably why the bid's a little bit pricier than maybe you may see, and that, it's a two-phase project. Essentially, they're gonna do one phase, they'll do another phase. The apparatus cannot stay out overnight. And the whole reason we were approaching it the timing is important, because if we can get it done before the fall, we'll get it done before the freezing temps, so they can sit out during the daytime without any problem.
Right.
If we wait until the winter months, that becomes problematic, because they can't sit out very long with the onboard water and the pumps, the wet pumps that they have. And so what they're going to do is they're going to do their work during the daytime. We'll pull them out on the aprons. And then in the evenings, they're going to cover it with plate steel so that we can back our apparatus again and still operate, still function.
Thank you. Any other questions for the chief?
Chief, out of curiosity, do you know the cost of the overhead garage doors that you mentioned?
I don't yet. I did just try to get the kind of the critical projects first, and then, future conversations, and especially now with the city manager here, we can assess, and maybe with the discussions of where we're going in the future.
Okay.
Before we get to that point, I know a number of firms that we can ask to give us quotes on that time, so.
You know a guy, huh?
I know lots of guys. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further questions, call the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Aye.
Sones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. So we'll move on to resolution approving amendment to the fee schedule for EMS billing fees. I'm gonna let discussion go here first before we get a motion, because I think there's a couple options here. So Chief, you wanna go ahead and let us go here?
Yes, sir. And so, historically, the city has used the Wellmark's annually maximum allowable fee for establishing the benchmarks for our EMS service fee. And the purpose in this is that it kind of kept us in that safe territory where we weren't overbilling, and we were basically billing for what one of the largest insurance companies in our area would pay to reimburse for EMS services. Unfortunately, we've seen this now, we're going on 5 years, and we've seen that it's stagnant. It has not moved at all, other than the mileage fee has increased $1. But as there's 3 fees that we charge, well, 4 fees. One's not considered in their rates, in their rate surveys that are published each year, and that would be the treatment no transport option. The 3 fees that they do evaluate and they do provide a recommended or guidance for is the our BLS emergent, which means that it's just basic life support. There's not a lot of medications that are used, just basic care, and it's a lot less stuff that's utilized on the patient, so it's billed at a cheaper rate. Second would be our ALS1, which would be a step up, so we're starting to do some procedures using a little bit more equipment, some more materials and supplies. And then our ALS2, which is going to be our max bill. That's multiple drugs, a lot of supplies that are utilized. Our supply and our fees, about 77% of our cost are personnel cost. And that's increased gradually every year. Our supplies have increased anywhere from 3 to 5% year over year. And so I had to go back and look at this. I did kind of consult with some of the chiefs in the metro. They're dealing with the same issues and having to go before their council. I did find out, along with about Urbandale, we're in the back of the fee schedule there by adhering to this maximum allowable fee benchmark. I did reach out to Dan Shawhouse, who completed a study, basically, and he had published a study of the rates, and I can make those available to you. But he gave us a statewide average. The statewide average was around $1,400 that they're charging for that max ALS2. And then again, he's got them dialed in for each type of service that we provide. In that, we kind of shot for the middle. We'll be a little bit above where the metro area is as far as fees, but we shot for the middle. It's important to note, though, that in that I did provide you the payer mix. The top 3 tiers are not going to be affected by this because they establish the rates that they're going to pay, and then they pay you. This is problematic in that They did ask for a study to be done by CMS, and CMS was directed to do a study. And so they hired a company to come in and do it to prove that, well, it wasn't to prove that they were, it was just to kind of show the situation of the ground ambulance services in the US. And it did show that we are we're not reimbursed. And I did put in here, looks like there was a reimbursement gap of about 1,147 between the cost that's expended by an agency to provide the service and the reimbursement that's provided. So with that, I did recommend, in talking to our billing agency, GEMT, that payer mix, again, the top 3 tiers won't be affected. So it only leaves about 10% that'd be affected. If we did raise, for every 10% we were to raise our fees, that would be about roughly $10,000 in revenue that we would realize. So if we were to raise 30%, which is what I would recommend to bring us up in that median range for the state, it would be about $30,000 in additional revenue to help cover the cost. Again, it's just to help reimburse us for what we're paying. We're not going to break even or even near break even with this, but it'll get us closer to paying for the goods that are used and the services that are provided. So I'd entertain any questions on this. I did provide, well, let me first say, I did provide I did recommend initially 30%. And talking with the mayor, he had a few discussions with some of the council members who thought that was a pretty stiff increase at the first. So he asked me to come up with another plan, which may be a graduated plan, which I presented here, which over the next 3 years would be a 15, 10, and a 5% graduated increase over a 3-year period, compounding, which then would leave us in probably the optimal position here. That's justifiable.
So what was the last year we actually raised rates?
You back in a year ago, 2 years ago, you raised the mileage rate. Other than that, they haven't been increased in over 5 years.
And costs have increased?
I'm sorry?
Costs have increased substantially.
Yeah, so we're talking
about
about a
that 30%
25% increase that we've sustained over that 5-year period. So 30 would put us on the top side. Yeah, year over year, about 5% increase. And I think that's, I did have the EMS captain run it, and it did appear that's what it's cost us.
Hey, council, any questions for the chief?
I'm really ignorant when it comes to like insurances and ambulance rides. So let's say I get transported to Mercy or Methodist. Does insurance cover that cost?
Insurance will cover that cost, but they negotiate the rate. So essentially for that payment, they'll negotiate the payment. So if we were to bill, if it was an ALS2 and we were to bill at that $1,300 level, with the 30% increase, they're going to pay $1,065. That'll be the max reimbursement that you'll get for that service. If it's Medicare, Medicaid patients, again, if you look at the top 2 tiers of those the payer mix that I've given you, that's that criteria of patients, you would only get reimbursed $717.65 for that patient. And so, but it's costing you well over $2,000 to provide the service.
So is that money that we lose that on, or do we charge the person who got that?
You cannot charge so the Medicare, Medicaid, and the negotiated rates, you cannot make up that difference.
How about someone like me? So
it would be that top 10% then is going to be your cash payers or the people with other insurance or no insurance at all. They would pay the full rate.
So whatever your deductible is or whatever you.
And I think some of this is making a statement collectively in that CMS study. Page Wolf and Wahlberg, the consultant firm that had kind of given us some feedback to the business sector, had kind of stated that part of this is that we need to go to the legislators and demand that CMS compensate us a little better, but we've got to do it collectively. Again, they're a big organization. It is an entitlement that the government has to pay out, so that's their only way to kind of move that budget piece is to change the rates that they pay out.
So just on that point, if I may, Chief, we have a policy here that in order for us to advocate for those kinds of things as quote-unquote City of Indianola, we'll need to bring that to a resolution for the council so the council can do that. So if you've got some language or something that you think that we need to do on that, then we could come as a resolution. Am I correct on that, Jackie?
Yes, but it sounds like you're still working with other entities to get something like that going.
Sure.
Okay.
how many trips are we making a day to Des Moines?
anywhere from 6 to 10, depending, on the average, maybe a little more than that.
And how old is our newest unit?
It's 2018, it's got about 92,000 miles. They're good for about 7 years, 150,000 miles. All of the other three are well past needing to be replaced. We do have one that's,
I know we've pushed the ball down the road on a unit already.
You got one coming in September, you said, I think? Is it?
September would be the earliest. We're looking maybe October, November, when it'll roll off the assembly line. So that'll put us in at least one newer.
So,
On these,
go ahead.
sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I didn't know, if there's more discussion, go ahead.
Okay, well, I guess when I look at your proposed fee increases, even once you get to the full 30%, you're still lower than the 2023 statewide average.
Correct. So again, that's a statewide average, and I could provide you the data. It puts us, as far as the metro concerns and our metro partners, it puts us kind of at the top end of that. So again, since we're not benchmarking anything from an organization, a professional organization, since we're not using the cost driver to kind of decide these fees, trying to find the best way to go about it is difficult. So trying to stay within that metro range so that we're close to it helps to combat some frustration, I think, from the people that it's being charged to. When you start to get on that top end, even though you may be close to that statewide average, you're far away from your regional average, which then creates a little bit of heartburn and frustration.
I kind of look at that a little differently. I mean, an ambulance in Des Moines has a lot less travel time and a lot less wear and tear on their units than us driving to Des Moines six times a day, so.
And we're unique in that we don't have a county hospital. A lot of the areas around us have a county hospital that they're able to transport to. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely explore going above that.
Well, again, I don't have a vote here, but my recommendation in the future would be that we make sure that we stay on top of the increases here that's necessary, so if we have inflationary increases, we do that. But we've got an issue at hand right here now for two options. If there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion for at least one of the two options, so.
Chief, you have an option preference out of those two?
I don't. I just think we need to make progress towards increasing those fees, and I do understand, especially since unfortunately you're dealing with the cash payers or people that don't have the negotiated coverage or no coverage at all. They're going to bear the brunt of the burden, but we do need to make a statement to CMS, and we do need to make better progress towards our cost reimbursement. So I would say that the 15, the 10, and the 5, I'm certainly okay with. I just think that progress needs to be made. We can't afford to sit at the well-marked rate any longer.
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the 30% increase up front.
Second.
Forward with 30% increase?
Correct.
Any other discussion?
Versus going, are you saying in 1 year?
Yes.
So that's gonna impact your self-pay, likely your,
It's gonna impact them no matter what. But our fire department has needs that need to be addressed now.
I understand, I'm just pointing out what percentage of our users are gonna be impacted, and that's 8.63%.
Right,
I
but
understand, but
truthfully, if you look at it, like your lowest income taxpayers are gonna fall within the first two brackets, so they're not gonna be affected anyway.
yeah, I understand.
And I would say it's a 30% increase over the well-marked rate. It's a 92% increase over the Medicare, Medicaid rates. And again, certainly reasonable and justifiable based on what we spend, but.
It is.
Any other discussion? Call roll. I'm sorry, do you have questions?
I agree with Christina. It's hard to say a 30% increase. How long have we been sitting up here talking about we have to cover our costs?
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to make sure we don't miss anything when we do it, that's all.
And just for the record, $953,427.22 is going to be your revenue that you brought in last year, with a GEMT revenue, which is just a supplemental payment that they pay for the Medicare, Medicaid, that Chief G, I think, had found about 2 years ago, was $224,371. I believe your expenses are 2.3.
I don't know.
2.3 million just for EMS a year or something. So, I mean, there's a pretty hefty gap there.
Yeah.
That's just a rough guess. I know it's somewhere close to that.
Any other questions? Clerk, call roll, please.
Councilmember Sones?
Aye.
Lane? Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Resolution carries 5-0. So now we're on the first consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 41.14 fireworks code of the city of Indianola, code of ordinance of the city of Indianola. So who's up on this one?
I put it together, it's just mirroring the new state law that we have on that.
Which moves the time from 10 to 11, is that what it is?
On July 4th and to 11 on July 3rd if it's a Saturday or Sunday preceding July 4th.
Okay, that'll be,
This will be fun.
of course.
Yep, this will be fun.
Fun.
I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Clerk, call roll, please.
Councilmember Beach?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We're gonna take a short, little interlude here. I would like Doug Byland to come up to the front if he would, please. We have a certificate of merit here for Doug, in recognition of your exemplary leadership as interim city manager. And you've upheld the highest standards of professionalism, commitment to the city of Indianola. Your contributions have supported the continued delivery of quality services and programs for our community in a time of transition, and it's awarded today. And Doug, thank you very much. Appreciate all your service, so, very much so.
Hold that certificate proud, Doug.
Right here, we'll do it this way.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hold it, move vertical. 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
And you getting what he needed to get?
No, I'll have it in the morning.
Okay,
By my office in the morning.
okay.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Job well done, Doug.
So the reason I wanted to make sure you were here tonight, so. I know he doesn't like this, it's okay. We appreciate everything you did. City manager report, Jake, you're up.
Well, I'm here, so I would say that's the first part. I have made it, and obviously have some big shoes to fill with Doug. So Doug, great job in your service, and I think it's a great recognition that you received tonight for going above and beyond for this community. So thank you again for that. I started last Wednesday. It's been a busy few days. I've met with the vast majority of all the departments. Done a little different approach to some of those meetings. You've had really good discussion with the department heads. Also had an opportunity to meet a good chunk of the staff. I had another one of those meetings today, and I believe I'll finish those up by the end of the day tomorrow. So I've gotten through and met with all the departments within the first week, which is excellent. My next step is to meet one-on-one with all the council members. I've begun that process, and potentially by the end of this week, I'll have met one-on-one with all of those individuals for the first time as well. And then, of course, we'll be moving into reoccurring meetings just to keep those lines of communication open, both with city staff as well as the elected officials. During the mayor's update, he had hit on a number of community events. I also just want to point out that there was the community Murph workout as well as a Memorial Day parade, the library summer bash. And then the mayor covered the Suds on Salem and the Sticks and Balls bike night. So some wonderful events last week. And I also want to point out that before our next meeting on the 16th, we'll have a pretty big day on June 14th. We will have the Indianola Chamber of Commerce hosting the Dad's Rock Festival from 1 to 10 p.m. in the downtown square. And we will also have the Mayor's Youth Council holding the Bike Fest from 10 a.m. to noon in the parking lot east of Simpson College Football Stadium. If anyone would like any additional information on either the Dad's Rock Festival or the Mayor's Youth Council Bike Fest, that information is available online as well as our social media accounts. We also have the Indianola Wellness Campus Blood Drive coming up on Friday, June 6th. The Wellness Campus will partner with Life Serve Blood Center. They'll host the blood drive from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Friday, June 6th. There's just a few spots remaining, so if you're interested in participating, please visit the city website or social media for more information on how you can book an appointment for donation. And then from the Veterans Aquatic Center, the pool did open this last weekend. And we did want to thank all the departments who were instrumental in making sure that the pool opened on time for this upcoming season. And we would certainly encourage all of our residents to get out there and enjoy that wonderful facility as we enter the summer season.
Thank you for those updates too. I apologize for not getting those all out. I would mention one other thing on that too. There is still an opportunity to donate the money for the Mayor's Youth Council Bike Fest. Will go to Kayakota. You still can go on, what is that, Aaron?
If you go to the city website, there's a news flash to the information, but the direct link to donate is www.givebutter.com/MYC Giant Trike Race. I'm pretty sure it's a direct link, but otherwise if you go to the city website or in social media, you're gonna find all that information I just said right there.
The fact that you remembered all of that is impressive,
Yeah.
so.
I think if I'm not mistaken, there's at least 4 of us in here that will be competing against each other, and it will be fierce competition, so.
That's myself, Chief
5
Shear,
of us.
Chief Hurt, Mayor Richardson, Doug Milan.
There we go.
Need to get Jacob in.
You can take my spot.
All right, we do need to set a end of the year fiscal date. We need to meet, I think usually the meeting doesn't last very long, if I'm not mistaken. But if you want to look at your calendars, we optimally, we're looking at what, the 25th, 26th? Is that what we
Yeah,
look
somewhere in
at?
there, yep, and we've done it at 8 a.m., around lunchtime, at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, so staff is very flexible, whatever works for the council.
Of June?
Yes.
Yes,
So it's a Wednesday or Thursday.
yeah.
I'm not available, that Wednesday I'm available after 3:30. That Thursday, it wouldn't be until after 5:30,
Okay.
so.
I'm gone fishing that week, but I'm available
Call in.
remote
Okay.
in the evening. Like we usually wrap up around like 4. So
So if we did something at 6 real quick, that'd be okay then for those two?
Thursday evening would work better for me.
Thursday evening would work better? You okay with whatever?
May work, yeah.
So we'll do Thursday evening, 6 p.m.? That's the 26th, is that 27th?
26.
26th, June 26th at 6 p.m.
Sounds good, thank you.
If there is nothing else, I would ask for a motion to adjourn, then we'll go to study session. So, take a motion to adjourn. So moved, got a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. We'll go to study session. Take a 5-minute break here, we'll go to study session. About time you walk off, okay. Sorry about that. All right, so city discussion direction regarding tax abatement program. I don't know if any staff wants to do anything here, if we just want to have a discussion on where we are on this, so. Go forward with that. Is there anything you want from staff, or do we just want to have some discussion here?
I mean, we can just discuss.
That's fine.
I know a couple weeks ago, Mayor, when I kind of like brought it back up to you again, and doing more research on House File 718, anything that is abated counts for our assessed values, which is what is determined on what our penalty is. So the abatements are almost like a double penalty in a sense. They don't exclude those out of our assessed values when they look at what that penalty is. So that's why I kind of really wanted to talk about it. As much as we've talked about House File 718 and what that's doing to us, property tax abatement is going to be playing a part in that, since how they determine the penalties based off of our assessed values. So I personally am in favor of getting rid of the property tax abatement, given the current legislation that was done at the state level.
So, I guess my question is, you remember we got an email from Brad Vanderlinden about the opportunity zones?
Right.
How does the opportunity zones differ from the revitalization?
Question? Not sure.
And can you do both?
I think it's something staff would have to look at as far as the opportunity zones and what we would do. I think I don't know if they would work in tandem or if they work separately. That would be something we'd have to discuss.
Is that something we could find out before? I
we're
mean, do
not
we have
in-
like a deadline or anything
No.
for that? Okay.
Did we all get this message?
Probably
I
not.
don't remember
He sent it to me and he sent it to Steve.
Yeah,
I can forward it on to you guys.
Right.
And
And
then
we should
actually
get-
I'll forward it to you and Jackie as well.
Yep, we're actually meeting with Allers and Cooney in a couple weeks, right? And so we can ask them about these things then in person too.
the only concern, I did, Josh is not here, obviously, he's at the soccer tournament. We did have a phone conversation today. He wanted me to let you know that he's open to discussion, but there is some little bit of concern about some of the commercial property tax abatements and where that all goes. The legislation that was in front of the state legislature this last year throws a lot of the changes back onto residential properties when they are talking about moving with doing away with the rollback and going to a full 100% valuation. That would throw a lot of the property taxes back on residential properties. I think probably what would be good would be to maybe get some information on that as well and have staff comes back with some things. I got a little away from what Joshua asked me to talk about here. He said, we've got to be careful on our correction to make sure that we're not harming something like maybe some of the development with some of the businesses and some of the smaller businesses that might use an abatement. He also said that maybe we could look at a cap on the value. In other words, if the house is over a certain value, I don't know if we can do that state legislatively or ordinance-wise with some of the state legislation out there. But he said maybe we could look at a cap on value. So if your house is $500,000 or so, would there be a cap on that we're only going to be able to abate a certain portion of that? I don't know how difficult that would be as well. He also suggested that we take a look at the time length, or can we maybe go to 3 years? Could we maybe look at some other things? Not opposed to anything that we're talking about here, but maybe those are just some things to think about and some direction to kind of look at, what we're doing. To Steve's point, I think he does make a good point here. I think we have to consider, are we being kind of double punished in a sense?
Yeah.
I think that's a valid question. Because if we're giving a tax abatement, then all of a sudden we're getting that increase in value also, then losing some of the money on that increased value, we're not actually getting our collections, I guess is what I would say. We're not getting our share of even the small percentage that we get through House File 718 or any other change in legislation that they bring forth. So if you're going to abate, you know, and the question becomes too, the other thought of that is, do we have to abate at 100%? Could you maybe start at 60%? Start at 50%? I mean, Jake, have you got any experience with this or what you guys had there?
As far as the tax abatement in the
Yeah.
general sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, operated very similarly. So when I was in South Dakota, we called it the discretionary formula. It was a 5-year, started out at 100 and then 80, 40, or 80, it's late.
Yeah.
60, 40, so on
Yeah.
and so forth. So we had a similar program there. We also considered its impact in regards to tax increment financing as well. And so that's another consideration here is that, especially if you're doing a 15 or 20-year TIF, if you're abating the taxes, you're kind of hindering yourself there as
Right.
well because you're not collecting as much property tax revenue that can go back into the TIF district. So, yes, I'm familiar with the concept at least, and we just need to kind of fill in the specifics on this. I think council's asking some really good questions to value this. I know Jackie and I've had some conversations too that some of our peer communities are looking at this a bit differently too. So I think there may be some lessons we can learn from engaging others as well.
I know some, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, our attorney did say he has helped a community lower their abatement percentages, so instead of 100% the first year, it was a lower amount.
Right. Did they talk anything about a cap on the value of the property at all?
See Norwalk into their program at the end of last year, so maybe you can reach out to the mayor and
Sure.
have a conversation
Bill
with them.
did.
Bill did, I think, yeah.
Okay.
They just said, they haven't really had a lot of issues with it. There was some confusion, from buyers whose realtors didn't know that they didn't have that program anymore, it sounds like. And then developers just wanted to know ahead of time. And they didn't like it at first, but now he hasn't heard any problems. They did it in September, effective the end of December 24.
Carlisle got rid of theirs too. So,
Well, I think we have enough time that if we make a decision by September, it sounds like, that somewhere in that neighborhood, that we would have some opportunities to look at and consider if we gather information and see what, you know, maybe, I don't know if there's any way to run some numbers and figure out what, to Steve's point, you know, what it is quote unquote costing us in that sense. Back to your point too, Jake, on the tax increment financing as well. But I think it's worth some discussion. And
Yeah, I'd like to know if we could calculate some type of number of how much it is costing us or will cost us if we do or don't abolish the incentive.
well, and so the other thing to keep in mind too, that the proposal in front of the legislature this last year that did not get passed, but will be carried over into the next year, is a hard 2% cap on any increase in value of the property. So you're also then, if you're abating 100% of it, and then, and they are exempting in some cases, that's something we probably need to pull too, is that Senate file, I think it's 631 or 632. And if they're abating or they're saying that the first year you're gonna get the full value, but then after that you only get a 2% increase. If we're given 5-year tax abatement on that, then that's really gonna be a negative number for us.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, is what they were doing with legislation that didn't go through, cause then it makes you really wanna get rid of it more rather than even abate 50% of it. Cause
That was a pretty big number, was it not, Steve?
Yeah.
Thought it was gonna still this session, this last session?
don't need to Van Gogh ourselves, right? In the spirit of tonight.
Well, I do think it's worth pursuing. Of course, I don't have a vote here, but I think you brought up some valid points, and I think everybody here has brought up valid points as well. Can we give some solid direction to staff then of what you want, so that we and get some information put together.
Personally, I would like you guys to look into that opportunity zone stuff. And the person who did send that to me is very open to questions and giving information. His email should be included on that, but if you need it, I can get you his contact information. But he's got a wealth of knowledge on that stuff, so.
Are there any studies out there that would show us, I know we don't have the information for our city, but I'm looking for any kind of return on abatement?
In other words, does it actually, so the return on abatement, a lot of times abatement was added because there were not a lot of homes being built, and so to spur development in a community, the abatement was added to get people to spend money on homes because they knew they could sell them, turn around, and the property tax owner would have their taxes abated for 5 years. I don't know in a community like ours, and we've got 500 units coming on in the next few years, if that's going to be valid, to be honest with you.
So go back before we had abatement
Sure.
and look at, I don't know, 5 years without abatement, and then look at what the abatement spurred.
That is kind of addressed in that packet that I included in the packet. You know, an undeveloped area in this example was $960 that you get in taxes over 5 years. If it was developed, it'd be $21,000. And so there can be an argument made that you're encouraging undeveloped land to be developed that would never otherwise be developed if you didn't have this plan. Whether that's true or not, not necessarily.
I understand that point, but I'm looking at number of units that were developed because of abatement.
I don't know how you get that.
I don't know how we would
Yeah, I don't
determine
know how
that.
you get that number.
Because they don't automatically get it, right? They have to actually ask for it too.
Yeah.
Well, then the flip side of that is not only are you getting the new construction, but you still, unless you look at a census number and you see the population base changing, you're just moving things around. I mean, you're gonna create some other issues with vacant properties.
Some abatement for existing homes too, for renovations, remodel type stuff too, that can go into it, that would add into what's being abated, that wouldn't account for a house being built too.
Well, and the other question somewhat comes too, that if you abate property in a, even residential property in a TIF area, then there's some of that's gotta be LMI stuff, but we've not really done that before. So we've really not had, residential properties built in a TIF district yet. And so the question becomes there too then, are you, back to the point made, that are you really hurting yourself then when you abate the property and you then also TIF it, that you're really not paying the fair share into the TIF increment finance fund that you're using to put in the infrastructure.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Absolutely, that's what we're here for.
Just trying to think of how staff could model this in perhaps some meaningful ways for council. When we bring this back, would it be helpful if we were to select maybe an assortment of properties, various types of properties, and kind of show what they would produce in property tax with and without abatement? So that way if we had similar type of developments in the future, you could see kind of side by side what you would generate with and without abatement, and maybe we could even go so far as to model some different scenarios where maybe we start at a different percentage than 100, and you kind of put those side by side to see what that actually means in real dollars if we were to maybe select several properties of different types.
I would add one thing to that, and I would add, if you had a separate column, if we could, what the difference would be if the state does put us on a 2% or a 3% hard cap or cost of living cap.
That'd be really good.
Because if that happens and it shows a lot of negative numbers over there, then it pretty much tells you that abatement is not something we really want to look at. If we could do that, I don't know if that's possible. else you want the staff to look at on that issue? Okay, one last comment I'm gonna make here at study session, but one last thing is that I will be leaving, we're taking our granddaughters out west on a trip. Leave on Thursday the 5th. We'll be back on sometime on the 13th. But I'll have my cell phone and computer with me, so if there's some questions I need to answer, I can do that. Is there anything else then that, anything for another study session down the road here you wanna bring up before we get out of here?
I put that sticky note, it's on the other side
Oh,
of your,
yes, you did. What did I do with it?
it's on the other side of your
Other
computer.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a representative for the Carlisle Trail ribbon cutting. That's on the 14th. That is on the same day as all the events going here as well. That is at noon, I believe it is. Is that correct? If I'm not mistaken, I can get time.
Yeah, I think it was something like that from your email.
What day is that?
That's Saturday, the 14th.
I'll be at Walnut.
Yeah, I know you will.
And I'm signed up already to help with the,
Yeah. And I am too after the Mayor's Youth Council thing.
I have my uncle's celebration of life that day.
It falls on Rabe, he's not here.
That'll teach him. Let me check.
That train left the station, didn't it? Yeah, if you can check, Bob, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say I've got a baseball tournament, but I don't think we have anything else that day, so if I have to duck out, my wife can probably handle that for a little bit.
Okay, Jackie, why don't you make sure we get the information of those two and see where you want the two of them to go?
My wife's gonna kill me now.
Yeah.
If I die, she did it.
volunteers for the Bike Fest.
I wouldn't discount that. Doug, are we got enough people working the Bike Fest? No? Yes, we need volunteers.
Sorry, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah, 10 to noon at parking lot. So if you'd be there about 9:30, 9:45 or somewhere in that neighborhood, what time are you guys setting up the tables and stuff? You taking them over there? Do you got that worked out yet?
Yeah, probably 9:30-ish.
Okay. Is that parking lot right across to the east of the football field at Hillman Hall there?
Hillman, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, Doug. So what are you short on volunteers for? Are you short for the?
I was thinking disc golf, I was thinking all kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, if you need volunteers, throw them out and we'll see what we can do. As long as it's not on the 14th.
Yeah. Disc golf would be another thing, but
Yeah.
14th, we do need some volunteers on that, so.
When's the disc golf tournament?
27th through 29th.
Okay. Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, we are finished. Thank you.